Today, I want to talk about why we resist a niche that is probably the absolute best niche for us. And I need to be really careful talking about this because I want to be really clear that I'm not invalidating anybody's experience or implicating that something that happened that was very difficult wasn't difficult. That's not what I'm saying at all. So, I'm prefacing this particular live with that because I don't want anyone to feel that I'm disrespecting them. I'm not. And if you start to feel like what I'm saying isn't right in your context, or you find yourself responding in an unusual way, can I encourage you to be curious about that and to keep watching, because this one matters, and it matters a lot. So what I mean is, why do coaches resist the niche that might be the best for them? Is that one of the very best places to look for a niche in which you have maximum credibility is to look to your own career past. Now, even if the thing that you want to coach around has nothing whatsoever to do with work, we still need to know who the people that we're focusing on are. We still need to know that. And when I say we need to know who they are, professionals or women or senior leaders or business owners, that's nowhere near focused enough. We're looking for um, a group of people at the intersection between the what, the topic that you want to coach around, and the who. Do you like that? It's easier to see. The who, which is a specific industry, profession, or sector. Now, the reason we need to have this industry, profession, or sector is because being able to market effectively to someone, we need to be able to describe the problem that they're grappling with, that working with us as a coach can resolve. We need to be able to describe that in their context, to be able to say, I get it. I know how difficult this particular problem is in this particular environment. And we need to be able to demonstrate our knowledge and understanding of their particular situation. We also, in our marketing, need to demonstrate our empathy for it, because that matters. Now, when I say the best place to look is in our own career history, I can often get some pushback on that. And in fact, that pushback can be big. I've had people get very upset and angry with me because it isn't information they want to hear. I think that's probably fair enough. So let me give you a couple of examples of what I mean. Let's imagine that you have had an entire career in, say, HR in the manufacturing sector. Again, I'm picking an example that I don't know anything about, but let's say that's your background. Whatever it is that you want to coach around, you understand the lives of the people in HR in the manufacturing sector. You understand how their lives go. I don't mean the day-to-day of their work, although you may well understand that too, but you understand the rhythm of their lives. You understand how what's going on at work affects what's going on at home. You understand how what's going on at home might affect what's going on at work. You understand the lives of the humans who work in that particular vertical. And you understand them better than anyone who hasn't worked there, because it is the detail that matters. It's knowing that if something happens in the news, for example, you would be able to have a conversation with people in that very narrow group of people, and you would be able to talk about the nuance of the impact of this particular news item on them and their sector and their work, rather than just knowing that there'll be an impact. And it's that level of understanding that is required to be able to market effectively. Now, the reason that I'm saying check how you're feeling, if I start to say something that's makes you feel upset and angry, take that as data and please don't stop listening, is that I do have conversations with people who have had some sort of a health reason why they left a particular sector, industry, profession, sector. And in some cases, that was kind of a catastrophic burnout, what we would have called a nervous breakdown back in the day. And these days, we tend to talk about it as burnout. And they fear going back into that sector because it's a sector that made them very unwell. Here's the thing. You're not going back into that sector. Choosing that sector as a niche isn't about going back into a toxic environment that made you ill. It isn't about clocking in at 9 a.m. and clocking out at whatever time you finished work when you were an employed person in that sector. That's not what it's about at all. It's about taking something valuable from your experience of working in that environment, and by valuable, I mean your knowledge of the lives of the people who work there, and using that knowledge in a really positive way, using it in a way that you can support people in that environment. Now, some coaches become the coach that they really wished had been available to them at a particular point in their life, where if they'd had a coach there, for example, perhaps they wouldn't have had a massive breakdown that meant they had to leave work or take a lot of time off. If they'd had a coach slightly earlier, maybe they would have made different choices. And of course, hindsight is a wonderful thing. We can look back through our lives and go, if I'd had somebody to talk to then, my life would have had a different trajectory. And they become that coach. So I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that what you might have experienced if you are somebody who has crashed out of a career, that what you experienced wasn't awful. I absolutely appreciate that it was awful. What I'm not asking you to do is go back and work in that environment, not at all. I'm asking you to take your knowledge and experience of the people who work there, the pressures, the stresses, the strains, as well as the good stuff, because there is always a bit of good stuff, is to take that and use that knowledge in a way that means you can help people. Now, the other time that coaches can get angry, actually, usually not, I was going to say upset and angry, but just actually angry, is if they've been in one sector for their whole lives and now their values and the values of that sector don't align. I was having a conversation with a bunch of coaches, and one of them fitted that criteria, and they were very upset at the idea that they had to use that one sector. It was the only sector they'd ever worked in, and what they wanted to do was coach, I can't remember, I don't know, charity CEOs. But they had absolutely no experience of working in the charity sector. So they don't know the stresses and strains of being a charity CEO. They don't know how to describe that charity CEO's life in a way that the CEO would go, they're talking about me. That's my situation. I would like to work with them. And when I kind of, raised this, the response was, but I'm a coach. I can coach anyone. I can coach that CEO. And yes, you can. You can coach that CEO. Of course you can. On the delivery side of your business, what you can't do is market to them. Or you can't market to them as effectively as somebody who has had a chunk of experience in that sector. Now, you don't have to have been a charity CEO to be able to coach a charity CEO. You don't have to have been a charity CEO to be able to market to a charity CEO, but you do have to have a really good knowledge and understanding of their lives, the rhythm of their lives. So occasionally a coach will say, well, I want to coach people at this level, but I've never been that level. So, imposter syndrome. You don't have to have been them, but you absolutely categorically do need to understand the nuance of their life, the rhythm of their life, the points in the year that are pinch points, the points in the year that are, God, glad that's over. So let me give you a couple of examples. If you're an accountant, January can be a rough month. I only know this because my accountant told me that, by the 31st of January, everything's filed. 1st of February is a blimey, sit back and relax. Now, I didn't know that. I don't know really what's going on for that accountant. Don't know anything about it. Couldn't market to them because I don't understand. I didn't know without them telling me. If you are a teacher, you know that pinch points are ends of term when you're shattered, exam time, SATs. If you're a primary school teacher, I could go on, but it's a combination of understanding the rhythm of their life, understanding what's going on in the world and how that relates to their life, their work life, and the rhythm of their life around their work life. And you still need to know who they are, even if the thing you want to coach around has nothing whatsoever to do with work. So the one that I tend to go for is a diagnosis of pre-diabetes. You're a health coach and you want to work with people to help them reverse a diagnosis of pre-diabetes by lifestyle choices. And yes, you could work on this side of your coaching business. You could coach anyone who has a diagnosis of pre-diabetes. But on this side, if you don't know where the triggers are in their life, if you don't know when work gets stressful and they're reaching for, they're making poor choices, perhaps is the right way to, reaching for a chocolate bar or eating fish and chips on their way home and not thinking about what they're eating and what they're doing because work's too stressful or life's too stressful or that particular period of life is too stressful. Like the run up to Christmas in a primary school, it's full of nativity plays and carol concerts. And, there's a lot going on, parties and all sorts of things. If you know when the busy times in their lives are, then you can market to them because your knowledge and understanding of them is the bit that makes you relatable. Because until you know who the people are that you want to market to, you don't know where they are. You don't know how to find them. And if we just think about LinkedIn, which is not the only place that we should be, absolutely not. And it's certainly not the only thing that we teach at the Coaching Revolution, but it is like the backbone of our marketing because it's where people will go to check you out. And so if we just think about LinkedIn, if we want to connect with people who look like the kind of people we want to work with, we have to search for them by job title. That's what we have to do. And, we can't search for them by a pre-diabetes diagnosis. Oh, that we could. We can't search for them by, they're struggling with anxiety and overwhelm. In fact, a really interesting exercise is to go to LinkedIn, go to the search bar and type in overwhelm, and you will find hundreds of coaches who say they work with people who are overwhelmed. And well, that tells you everything you need to know about marketing overwhelm coaching, doesn't it? It's like there's loads of us going, I can work with you if you're overwhelmed. And all these people who are horribly overwhelmed, who simply don't see that because the way, we think that if we write something on the internet, on LinkedIn or on social media of any kind or anywhere really, we think that if we write something, everyone sees it. And the truth is, attention is a very valuable commodity in the 21st century. It's how these social media platforms make their money, is by selling our attention. And so being able to get somebody's attention is a challenging job, and it's why we fail as marketers. It's why coaching businesses fail, because we're not as specific as we need to be in who we're talking to, because we mistakenly think that everything we say goes everywhere. So if we put a post on LinkedIn, everyone sees it, and the truth is a tiny fraction of the people that we are connected to see it initially, like 2 to 4%, a tiny number. And then we wonder why well, I've been writing on LinkedIn, I've been posting on LinkedIn for ages, and I've just got no traction. And when I go and look, there is no focus to what they're saying. They're talking about coaching, they're talking about themselves. They're not marketing, they're just talking. Because, and you'll hear me say this a lot, if it isn't focused, it isn't marketing, it's just words. All effective marketing is focused. And when coaches say to me, "Oh, I hate marketing," it's because they don't know what they're talking about. In exactly the same way as when people, people misunderstand the word coach. They think they know what it means and they're wrong. It's the same with coaches and marketing. What they think marketing is, which is braggy, boasty, blowing your own horn, saying what a marvelous coach you are, and they think that's marketing. That's not marketing. Good marketing, effective marketing, is comfortable and it's ethical. And if you would like to know more about that comfortable, ethical marketing, can I invite you to join my Nail Your Niche challenge? It's soon now. It starts on the 7th of September and it runs for 4 days. That's not a 4-day commitment. It's a reasonably light touch. And it's good fun for a start. And secondly, it's really challenging thought-wise. It will challenge your thinking. And we're coaches. We love a bit of challenge thinking, don't we? So if you would like to join me for that challenge, where I will make sure that by the time we get to the end of that week, you have a very good idea of where your niche is, so your who and your what, and you can describe what you do in a single sentence that actually means something to non-coaches. I'll put the link to register around this video, and I do hope you come and join me. I'll see you on Monday.